What's up, friends? I am in Denver in my favorite park, Wash Park, and I wanted to hop on to give a kind of review and a update on how things went with the 10-day silent Dieta that I just went through. So, quick overview: Dieta is an opportunity to essentially slow your frequency of your body and to become a little bit more integrated with the natural world. The ultimate goal is to communicate more with the natural world and specifically with the plants. And I'll start off by saying that I am the most skeptical when it comes to that. Um, I'm very intellectual. My girlfriend says that I talk a shitload, and I feel like I'm logical. What you see is what you get. And I have to say, after 10 days of going a little bit crazy and then finding some unbelievable new, almost like re-remembering what we had lost as far as our senses as a species, I feel very transformed from the experience. So I came into this 10 days outside of the San Diego area in the desert. I came into it so incredibly nervous. I was nervous about my business and my responsibilities, but really I was nervous about the experience of just being alone and being in silence for 10 days. Yes, there is plant medicine journeys that are a part of the experience, but those of you who know me know that I have been practicing with those types of psychedelic journeys for over a decade now, and I've done a lot of training in that space. So I didn't feel as worried about that. However, just being alone for that long and not having my phone and stimulus, conversations, notifications, it felt scary. So the first few days were tough. I was like looking for my phone. I was just the boredom started becoming agonizing, but I practiced more and more meditation. I did have a couple books that I would lean on more heavily in the beginning, and eventually, after a couple days, that fear started to really form into this overwhelming, like total sensation experience out there that was just so educational and heart opening. So, one of the recommended readings is this book called The Secret Teachings of Plants, talking about how the plants do have some sort of a communication, call it a nervous system. And there's a lot of evidence of that where certain plants will share nutrients with other plants in the forest, or if there's a fire coming, plants will start to produce flame retardant chemicals in their barks and in their stems. So there's obviously something going on that we don't quite understand. Um, but I think in the last few hundred years, especially, we've kind of prioritized certain elements of knowledge and education and science and kind of shunned some of the others, especially when it comes to the indigenous teachings. But as I was reading this book, I started to realize that every single one of these medications that we rely on so heavily, like I believe aspirin, it comes from the willow bark, and you can trace that to almost every single one of these medicines comes from the natural world. It just makes sense. And as you go a little deeper, you realize that a lot of these pharmaceutical companies, they talked and worked with the local doctors or healers in the area to understand what plants and what remedies had lasted for centuries amongst these people before taking them and cultivating it and synthesizing it into a name brand pill that we take today. And now we've kind of shifted where we trust these, but not the plants where they came from. So this experience, especially in the later days of the silent retreat, really started to feel like a huge veil was lifted, where I started to actually be able to uh, use all of my senses and feel the environment in a different way than I ever had before. So it was a really profound experience that I felt I had to share, despite how it might feel woo woo. And I know this is going to be a longer video, so obviously scroll away if you're not interested. But with the stillness, with the single points of focus, my creativity just started to blossom. I was writing in my journal, I was writing new music, I was remembering all of these dreams, I was having memories of the past that I hadn't had before. It was like just an unbelievable experience where I had felt like I had kind of started to lose those skills, and by just silencing and getting away from the daily life in the metropolitan 2026 experience, everything started to become more enriched. And yes, obviously the psychedelics had a big part to play in it, but even when I wasn't in those ceremonies, I just started to feel this stillness and this interplay between myself, my mind, my heart, and the world around me. And interestingly enough, I did this with a group of other people, and we did not communicate during the 10 days, but we were somewhat in the same area of the land. The reports of wildlife starting to interact with you in a much more comfortable way started. Everyone had an experience like that. There were bobcats coming out and checking us out, more birds, snakes. There was even a mountain lion sighting, which is a little bit scary. But my whole thought on mountain lions is that if you see one of them, they're probably either running away or they're coming to eat you, and you don't have too much of a control in either of those. But the way that nature began to expose itself when we just quieted our minds and started to truly listen and spend time was absolutely remarkable. So I'll kind of share just that little seed and say that if you're feeling frazzled, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you feel like something's missing, the good is in the silence. I don't know how else to say it, because it contradicts everything that we've been going through, and as a society, with social media and alerts, screens. But if you can discipline yourself to just spend a little bit of time in nature, a little bit of time in silence, it's amazing what senses start to come to the surface, and you realize how complete of a being we actually are. So that's my report, and I hope you enjoyed it. And more to come. This whole integration of a 10-day Dieta is only beginning, and immediately coming back here in Denver and eating good food, getting back into coffee, getting back into work. The integration is the hardest part of any major experience. I think we've all been on those vacations where you can't wait for this 4 days in paradise, and then you do. It flies by, and immediately you just feel behind in work, and everything comes rushing back in so fast. So I'm doing my best to stay still, and my hope and prayer is that you find some stillness in your days, because it is so rewarding and so natural, for lack of a better word. So aloha, more to come.